Okay, it's 2:30. Actually, a couple minutes late. Trying to get set up here. Pretty well set up. Okay. Oh, hi, Patty. How are you? Sorry I missed you last Friday. Okay. Just gonna wait a couple of minutes and see if we get some other people on. Are you at work today or at home working? Okay. All righty. Oh, you're home? Okay. Okay. Well, that's nice. Working from home is always good. All right. Hello, Wendy Ross. How are you? Oh. Gotta quench my thirst there. Okay. All right. Well, today we're going to work on Mr. Kitty. This little pendant right here. Little Halloween kitty. You can see him okay. I will, as always, turn the camera down a little bit and show you. Let's see here. Whoa. One of these days I'm going to invest in better video equipment, but today's not the day. Okay, so hi Suzanne. Okay, so now this is the kitty that I'm going to make today. Same kitty, but he doesn't have a little pumpkin on the side. I thought about that after the fact. And here are the little copper shape components to make the kitty. And then I also thought I'd throw in a pumpkin with the witch's hat because I thought he was kind of cute. So we'll see how time goes. Maybe I'll throw one of those together. But I wanted to mention, if you want to make these things and you don't have the copper shapes or a hydraulic press to make them with, I would be happy to cut some of those for you. A couple of people have inquired about that, and you know, I can do that. I don't want to make a gazillion of them, but I can certainly make you a couple of pairs if you want, or just one set, whatever. But you know, these have to be pretty much made on the press with the pancake dies, unless you can draw really well freehand and then you want to cut these. But say, for example, the kitty with these whiskers, that would be really hard to do, to cut that out or saw it out. I suppose you could, but I wouldn't want to do it. So anyway, I'm offering, if you want to do this project at home, I can furnish you with these materials. If you need the copper wire, you know, to go with it too, I can throw a piece of that in there as well. And if you're interested, just message me and we can have a discussion about that. Okay? So that's what the project is for today. All right. So there's a couple different ways that you can go about making your circle, your copper wire circle, which is the background of the cat. This one is just slightly larger. It doesn't have to be any particular size, just enough that the cat clears it inside. But this one I thought was a little bit large. I made this ring just a little bit smaller. Too small is not good either. I was kind of experimenting with different sizes, and I did this one, and the cat would be pretty well crammed. Although maybe it would stick out and it would look good. I don't know. I didn't experiment with that guy. So anyway, what I used to make this wire circle is 10 gauge copper wire. I bought a spool of this. I'm not really sure where, maybe Eurotool, but you can get this at a lot of places. I know Eurotool you have to go through a Eurotool distributor to get it, so I'm sure Rio Grande would have it as well. So you can get that. Well, that's what I'm using is 10 gauge. You could probably use 12 gauge too. It's a little thinner, but I'm sure it would work. So for the 12 gauge, there's a couple of different ways that you can make the circle. And I am going to show you both methods, and you can kind of choose for yourself what's easier for you to do. I have a handout, as always, that I'm going to post after the video's over. And, oh, I don't have a copy of it down here for me. I printed one up, and then I guess I left it somewhere else. Anyway, I have pictures showing both ways that you can make the circle. And one way, and I find this is a little bit more tedious, if you have a hoop mandrel, you can use that. You can use anything that's round, has a round diameter, like the handle on a broom. You know, you can even use one of those. Something of that size, you know, you can form your wire around that. Or you can use what's called double cylinder pliers. And there are different sizes of these. They come in different sizes. This is the medium size. And so it makes two different size cylinders, whichever one you prefer. So this one, I just got these last week. I had the larger pair and they were really too big for this, but I got these in, so I thought I would play around with them. But when I initially made the instructions, I pretty much went with the hoop mandrel, but I think these are easier. Anyway, if you're going to use the hoop mandrel, on this, I happened to cut a 6-inch piece of wire, and I annealed it because 10 gauge is a little bit thick to be making the bends around here. So what I did, or what you can do on this, let me see if I can turn the camera down just a bit, and I just pushed the wire around the mandrel and overlap it. And I'm just kind of, I just picked a spot. I think this will be a good size circle, but I'm just going to push this around. This would be really hard to do, bending it like that, if it was not annealed prior. So it only takes a minute to do, excuse me, to do that. And I did not pickle it because I can do that later. So anyway, here's the overlap. You can see where I overlapped it. Excuse me. And then I'm going to get my Sharpie marker. And I'm going to mark a straight line over both wires where I want my cut. Okay, basically that's all I'm doing. And then I would take this over to, excuse me. Okay, I would take this over to my jeweler saw, and I would saw that line. So then I would have two very flush cuts, ends of the wire. All right, I'm not going to do that because that's on another part of the studio, and if you know how to use the jeweler saw, you just saw that down that line. Okay, so then the other way, that's one way. Then the other way, I guess I should have Well, I don't know. That's okay. Then the other way is using the double. It's not the Rona patty. I know my husband and I always do that. I know that's hilarious. Well, it's not really, but the other way is to use the cylinder pliers. But because I'm going to be bending this, I want to make sure that both of my ends are sanded flush first before I bend it, because then it's kind of impossible to do that. Patty, crack me up. Okay, so I'm going to use, I think you've seen me use this before. This is a miter vise, and it has this little square stop in here, a little square piece of metal. And that's where you line up you put your wire through here, and you line it up. I have to set it down here. You line that up and rest it against the stop, that little stop, and then crank these little ends down here so it holds it nice and tight. Hi, Diane. Hi, Carol. Okay, then I'm going to take my file and I'm going to sand that ragged edge of the wire, and this will take off any of the roughness and imperfection on that wire and make it nice and smooth. Change my angle a little bit and make sure that that file just kind of glides with no tug at all, and then you know you've got it all nice and smooth. Okay, so that looks pretty good, nice and flush. I can run my finger over it, not even feel anything. And then I'm going to do the other side. And the reason you do this is because when you're forming your circle to put it together, you want to make sure that you have a nice flush join before you solder, so everything works out well. All right, so here that's sticking up just a little bit. It's like a little beak on there from the wire cutter, and I'm going to cut that as well. Hi, Diane. All right, and there again, change my position a little bit. Just make sure that I'm getting it from different angles so it's nice and smooth. And, you know, I'm no expert at any of this stuff that I'm showing you. It's just kind of my way that I've figured out how to do things. And so if you find other ways that work for you better, I would certainly say go right ahead and do that, whatever works for you. Okay, so I've got both ends filed, and sometimes there's a little bit of residue on the, it's like filings, you know, that have come off of the copper, and I just want to knock those off. Okay. There's also, you get a lot of filing buildup inside the miter vise, and I just use some of that canned air and spray that out, and that does a good job. Okay, so I've got the two ends flush. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way. And I'm going to take my wire, and I'm going to put it right in where it's just kind of peeking out. Actually, I want to turn it this way. And kind of hold on to the wire a little bit and help it bend. When you have a longer piece of wire, it's easier to maneuver around. But I'm just using this as a form. And for whatever reason, I guess I cut my wire a little shorter. It's not a problem, but I cut my wire a little bit shorter. So I was trying to figure out, and I guess not successfully, how to cut the length of wire without leaving it on the spool. I would normally want to leave it on the spool, but I also want to make sure that I can put it in the miter vise. And once you've made the turns like this, you can't really put it in the miter vise. So I guess my calculation was a little bit off, but that doesn't matter because I can still bring this together and it will be okay. So I have a pair of half round pliers that I'm going to just bend the wire in a little bit on both sides. And before I solder like round things like this, I generally like to form them more in a D shape than in a circle. I find that I have better success with soldering when it's kind of like in that D shape. It kind of, you can butt those wire ends nice and flush up together better. To me it's better than just trying to leave it as a perfect circle. So I'm just going to snug it up a bit. Like I said, working with a 10 gauge wire is a little bit stiffer than the thinner metals, thinner gauges, but this is fine. Okay, so this is a pretty good join right here. You want to feel it. If you feel any roughness, generally you could figure that it's not exactly perfect for soldering. So you might want to just play with it a little bit. Sometimes if you overextend it, like right here, I'm bringing the wire over the other wire and then pull it back, it usually goes into place a lot easier. So now this feels nice and smooth all the way around, and I'm ready to solder. Okay, for this piece of wire, I'm going to use a piece of hard sheet solder. And let me get that stuff here. I always put the split in the wire towards me so I can keep track of where it's at, because sometimes after you put the flux on, you know, it gets kind of bubbly and crusty, and sometimes you can kind of lose sight of where that part is that you want to join. Let's see, I have a question here. Happy Wednesday to you, Diane. Okay, your big mandrel will be different size than the jumbo hand tool. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Suzanne, but you know, I'm not going for any particular size. I mean, I would say probably the circle is about an 1.5 inches in diameter, close to it. If it's not right on there, it's probably kind of close to it. But for this particular project, it doesn't really have to be a specific measurement. It's just enough so that all your little pieces fit on there. So, okay, so I'm going to cut my little piece of sheet solder, hard sheet solder. And for this, you just need a little tiny bit, really. It's pretty darn small. It's a little tiny piece, okay? And I am going to lay that down underneath the wire, the split in the wire, where I want it to join. Okay, and then I'm going to use some flux. And my torch. Got my water bowl. Where's my, okay, and tweezers. I'm ready. Just gonna apply the heat in a circular motion all the way around the wire. You don't want to just focus on the area that you want to join. You want to bring the entire piece of metal up to temperature. And just circulate. Copper takes a little bit longer than silver will. For sure it does. It takes more heat. And there it went. And I usually just kind of go around, make sure I've got it all. And that's that. Put the torch to the side. Get my tweezers. And quench. Okay. I like to use the hard solder on this because I'm going to be pounding it quite a bit. So I want to make sure that I don't pop that seam open. And I shouldn't, as long as it's been soldered properly, but I just want to make sure. Okay, so now I've got a little bit of a solder bump right here. I'm going to just file that off with a with my micromotor and a coarse sanding wheel or rubber wheel. I'm just going to sand that little bump off, and then I'll shape the hoop a little bit. I'm going to put my mask on. There's always little spatter crumbs when you are sanding with a flex shaft. So I don't want to be breathing any of that stuff, so I put a mask on. And you see, that was just a really small piece of solder, but it still made a lot of excess. And as always, the solder is going to be silver, and it's going to show on your copper wire. So before I patina the piece, I always plate the piece using old pickle and some steel wool, and that covers up that silver line pretty well. I will also position my little characters that I'm going to solder on over this solder seam too, so that should not really be noticeable at all. Okay. All right, so I can go ahead and stick him in the pickle. Well, no, I'm going to shape him first. I'm going to take the hoop mandrel and a rawhide mallet. And get him all rounded out. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Nice round circle. Now, if he's not even, which he's not, you can put him on, I don't know why I'm referring it to as a him, but I think we tend to do that sometimes. You can take a chasing hammer and just file or smack them a little bit and flatten it out so it's nice and flat. Okay, so this is going to go in the pickle. All right. Okay, so the next course of business is working with the little shapes. Yeah, the plating works really good. It's amazing. It just really is amazing because, like I've mentioned before, they do sell copper solder, but it truly is not copper color. When you solder it, it is still silver. So, hello, Deb. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so I've got my little copper shaped guys here. And we have to draw the face of the kitty and some lines in the hat and the bow just to kind of decorate them real cute. Get some of this stuff out of the way. I'm going to pick out a few of my stamps, my little metal stamps, and see which ones I want to use. There are, I think, well, I know I mentioned in one of the videos, earlier videos, about this little set of stamps that I had purchased on Etsy a couple of years ago, and I looked since to find it again to give it to you guys as a reference, but I can't find it. I don't think they have it anymore. I went to my orders and I looked who the seller was, and I looked up the seller, and they no longer had them on their site. But I did not send them a message, which I probably should have done. I still could do and see if they can still get these, because they're pretty fun to have. They make a lot of nice little details for small pieces. So I also want to say that this design idea came from two different people, two different Facebook friends of mine. Karen Hart is one of them, and originally she did the kitty face with the hat, I believe. And I thought that was adorable. And then not too much longer after that, Lori Vaden had this kitty on her Facebook page, or on the Potter page. I'm not really sure, but it was on there. And I just thought that was the most adorable thing ever. So I contacted her and asked her if she wouldn't mind if I put this, it's almost identical. There's a little bit of a difference, but not much, to what she had made. And she was like, oh, she absolutely fine with it. So, but I do want to give her and Karen credit, because they came up with this thing that inspired me. So anyway, and also Lori told me about these little stamp sets. That's what made me think about that. You know, I said, well, where did you find those little tiny stamps? And she said, well, it was a lady on Etsy, and I'm pretty sure they came from China. But I guess after the broadcast, I will message her and see if she can still get a hold of these, because if she did get them, they would be really a cool thing to snap up. Okay, so I'm going to first draw my design on the copper shape, so that I have a little bit of guidelines when I'm actually going to stamp. So I'm going to, according to my piece here, I'm going to give him 2 little dots for his eyes. I'm going to give him a little raised eyebrow and a little upside down triangle for his nose, a little straight line for the line between his nose and his mouth, a little smile, 3 little dots. You can do it however you want. I'm just telling you how I'm doing mine. And then some little whiskers, 3 whiskers on each side. And of course, when I actually put the stamps on them, they're probably not going to be where I have the marker, but at least it's a somewhat of a guide. And actually, I think my stamps are a little bit larger than the area that I'm drawing. This ear is going to be covered up by his hat, so it doesn't really need anything. And this ear can either have a line in it or two, or I actually found in my stamps a different stamp that kind of makes like a little triangle inside his ear. So I'm going to probably go with that. I kind of like that. Okay, so I have that. So I have his little face drawn on here. Okay, and then I will do the hat, and that is pretty darn simple. I just do a couple of curved lines for like a little hat band, maybe a couple of little dots in there, a couple of little lines in there like creases. And that's it for the hat. Okay, these guys are so fun. And then for the bow, just put a couple of curved lines in there, a couple of dots, curved line on the ends, just kind of like little wrinkles in the bow or creases. You don't even have to do this if you don't want to, but I just think it gives it a little bit more character. Like that. Okay. All right, so we've got them. Let's start with Kitty's face. And I'm just using a steel bench block and a rubber block to kind of absorb some of that pounding. I just have a standard brass hammer. You can use any kind of hammer, whatever's comfortable for you. And find my little stamps. I want to do his eyes first, I guess. Guess it doesn't make any difference. It's just where you want to start. Oh, and I wanted to point out on the cat, normally this tab would be sawn off or cut off, whatever, and it would just be the little head like that. But I found that attaching his bow, it's very useful to have this little tab on here. It's just a little bit of a help. So just wanted to mention that as well. All right, whack. And whack. Okay, give him the little eyebrows. This is the teeniest, tiniest little, I don't know if you can see it or not, little pattern in here. Little teeny thing. And I think I'm going to flatten him a bit. Just doing those two little eye dots kind of distorted them a little bit. So I'm going to put the eyebrows in here. That's a little higher than it should have been. Okay. All right, now I'll do his ear. Where is that little curve? Yeah, this little triangle. Okay. Now for his nose, I'm going to take a straight stamp, just a very small straight line stamp. And actually, the ones that I have are a little bit wider than I would really like. Oh, this one's not bad. I guess I did the other one with a wider line stamp, and I just thought his nose was kind of too big. Oh, I did him terrible. Oh well. He's going to have a crooked nose. That's okay. Oh, that's really bad, Sue. Really bad. Oh well. I may just have to do a different one. Yep. I can't live with that. Sorry, kitty. Okay. Let's do this again. Maybe I'll start with his nose before I do the other stuff. That's good for the first one. He's crooked again. Gosh, it seems like I'm lining him up straight, but obviously I'm not. Well, he's still better though. Okay. I give him a little more character. Ha. Flip him over. He's going to be what he is. Okay. His eyeballs. Those are good. Maybe I don't like that little tiny line stamp. Maybe the bigger one is better. Those are good. Okay, then the little dots for his whiskers. This one is really like a little tiny sharp point, but I like it. These are not the best well-made stamps, but like I said, for what they do, I like them. Okay, now I'll take that larger line and make his whiskers. I should have done a perfect one and then swapped them out and made you think that that's what I just did. But I didn't think of that. Okay, and then his mouth. Let's see here. His mouth, I'm not the most happy with what I have as far as stamps for his mouth. A little curve is probably the best I'm gonna do. I'll give him a nice big smile. Okay, now I'm gonna take off the marker. He's okay. I mean, he could be better, but he's okay. There's his little face. Okay. All right, so he's good. I'm going to make sure that he's nice flat for when I solder. All right, now the witch's hat. I have a curved stamp that I like a lot. I think I got these from Ryan Leininger. He makes a lot of really nice. He makes a lot of really nice stamps, but he has lots of different curves and straight line stamps too. It's important to flatten your stamps out as you're stamping because they really do curve and warp, and then it makes it really hard to stamp properly. Like, I'm such a good stamper to tell you that. But, you know, you just don't know till you try stuff. Okay, let's get that little dot stamp again. I'm going to make a couple of little dots for decoration in the hat band. You know, and if you're doing these, you know, you certainly can do whatever design you like. And if anybody missed it and wants to make this set, I will punch out the copper shapes for you. So that way, if you don't have the pancake dies or press, you can still make the project. Because it's not really fair to make projects that you can't possibly make. So I'm always game, even like the other things I've done, like the pins, the flower pin and the skeleton and all that stuff. If there are copper shapes that you want, just message me and I'd be happy to make you a few. Okay, so there's the little witch's hat. That came out okay. And now we'll do the bow. Okay, so with the bow, I'm pretty much going to use that one curved stamp. I find this stamp to be quite useful. It's got, you can see that. It's not a big curve. I mean, there's lots of other ones, and they are useful for many different things. There's like a much larger curve, but you can just use little sections of it too, depending on what you're stamping. So just putting that out there. Okay, let's see here. I guess I'm going to do just a little part. See, I'm using that same curve, but I'm just going to get the center of this bow. Just that one little part. And then that little dot stamp again for the center. And let's see, maybe just a line there, a line there. Well, that's not so impressive, but it'll still work. Flatten that out. There's a little bow. Okay. Any questions? Concerns? Comments? Now, I also have the little pumpkin, and I had stamped on the original one, well, on this one, I stamped just some lines in the pumpkin, but that was before I got this little pumpkin stamp from Jean Trujillo. Can't say that once, let alone say it 3 times fast. Anyway, little pumpkin stamp. So I think I'm going to solder him on there just for a little variety. As long as I am doing the stamping bit, I think I'm going to go ahead and stamp the pumpkin and the witch's hat just for the heck of it. Because once I solder it, there's not a whole lot more to do. I think I'm going to give him a bigger smile. So I basically want 2 triangle eyes, an upside down triangle nose, and a broad smile. I'm not going to do anything more than that to this guy, okay? Now I do have this little triangle stamp that's got some little lines around it. So I'm going to use him. And I think I used him before on another one of the demos. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that my triangle is going pointed upwards for one eye, or both eyes. Okay. And you know, another tip, I don't know if I have it here or not, but there is a green tape. There is a green tape that you're supposed to wrap your fingers around to keep them from getting hot when you're polishing. Ugh. I have to show you because it's a good tip, I think. If you're going to do a considerable amount of stamping, this is kind of like it's got an adhesive on this tape, and the point of this, from my understanding, is when you are at the polishing lathe or whatever, and you're working with hot stuff, or your metal gets hot when you're polishing, you wrap your fingers around, your two fingers that you're holding the metal, and that's supposed to help reduce the heat so that you can stay with the piece longer. However, I've found that they actually help to grab your stamp. Some stamps, well, it would be nice if I had some good scissors. They cut paper really well, but they're doing a crap job on this. Okay, there we go. All right, so it's got this sticky adhesive on here, and some stamps have a knurled, what they call a knurled edge. It's like, of course I don't have one to show you, but it's like got little cuts in it, almost like diamond cuts or whatever, and it helps you hold on to the stamp much better than just a plain shank like this. So if you run across stamps like that, you're going to pay more for it because it costs more to do that. But not all stamps come that way. I'd say very few, actually, that I've run across. Anyway, I'm just going to wrap some of this stuff around the stamp. It sticks to itself, and then it gives you a little bit of a better grip. So it's just a little tip I throw out there. So okay, so I did his two eyes. Now I'm going to do his nose upside down with the triangle. And then his mouth. I have a hard time holding on to these suckers. It doesn't matter what size they are, but I just find it really awkward. So, Deb, you said alligator tape. I'm not really sure what that is, but I can look it up. I'll Google it and see what you mean by that. But I'm always game for learning different things that help you, when you're doing this stuff. So share any ideas. All right, flatten him back out again. And then I'm going to do his smile. He's going to have a big smile. I also know Ryan Leininger has made stamps, custom stamps for whoever. But I know Melody comes to mind. Melody makes a lot of, she does the Spoonalicious flatware, and does a lot of animated little characters that are just absolutely darling. And I know that he has made her stamps for like faces and things like that. So I'm sure if there's anything you would want, you could contact him, and I'm sure he'd be happy to help you with that. When you're using these longer stamps, you want to make sure that you hit it all over so that you get the whole length of that stamp. Okay. Generally, you like tap it, rock it just a tiny bit, lean it, hit it, lean it, hit it, and that way you pretty much get the entire, well, you should get the entire image. All right, I'll clean him off. All right, so he's got his little face on here. Michelle, there is a tool that will hold the stamp. Yes, and I do have, I have one that Jeff Fulkerson made, and also Impress Arts, and they work. They work. I'm just too I don't know. I just have to do it, get it done. I should really just take the time and do it, but they do hold the stamp a lot. I think it's called Steady Stamp, actually. They do hold the stamp a lot better. Okay, so pumpkin face is done. I'll do a little hat for him. Well, I already have one drawn out, so I will just do that, and then we will solder. So, where are my, okay, my curved stamp? Nope, that's not what I want. Here it is. Stamping is a lot of fun, but it's really, it takes a lot of practice to get really good at it, in my opinion. Unless, you know, you're going for a more whimsical look and you don't really care if it's perfect. Well, this is far from perfect, but you know, when you're doing something as a demo too, I don't want to get real anal and sit here and play and play and play, because I don't think you'd like to sit there and watch me do that. But I think you get the idea of what I'm talking about. The more you do it, it's like anything. The more you do it, the better you get at it. Okay, so I have, oh, I didn't put his little dots in the hatband that I like. Oh, wrong stamp. You know, folks, as you get older, your eyesight isn't what it used to be. At least mine sure isn't. Oop. Okay. Oh, that actually came out okay. Sometimes I think that rawhide doesn't flatten as well, but it could just be the operator. All right, so I've got all my pieces. I want to make sure they're nice and flat, because we're going to solder now in the bow. All right, get these guys out of my way. All right, I'm going to look for questions here. Okay, that's, yeah, it is, that tape is very handy. Okay, Carol, I have metals. Okay, interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, Carol. The metal stamps that you use for leather are not generally good on metal. They're great for leather, but not metal. They're usually too shallow, so they don't really work really well. So, Carol, I know you live close by, so if you want me to look at what you have sometime, I would be happy to do so and test them out, but I really don't think they're going to work well for what we're doing. So that is something to consider. All right, so like I said, I'll get these guys out of the way and get my soldering stuff ready. I have the joy of going computer shopping when I'm done with this. My husband's laptop broke last night, and the screen, and he's like beside himself because he can't play on his computer. And he's not a computer person per se, so I have to go with him and help him get what he needs. And I'll tell you, I'll be setting it all up. I hate doing new stuff like that. I'm glad that we have the ability to do that, but I just don't like it. Okay, that's not a huge problem, but I've got that lurking in the back of my head. Michelle, for stamps and tools, Impress Art. Yes, thank you for putting that link on there. They have nice stamps. They are not the same as the handcrafted ones that a lot of our friends on Facebook in the stamping groups make, but they are certainly adequate for this kind of stuff. They're just fine. So they have lots of variety as well. All right, so doing the soldering on this guy, well, first of all, I got to back up, as I always do. I have to get my ring, and I already did this one. The other one's in the pickle, but this is the same, pretty much the same size. I'm going to, where did I get my pancake dice? I got these from Potter USA. And I don't know if, I'm pretty sure they don't have these. Well, the cat, I know they have a larger cat. I don't know if they have the smaller cat still available, but I think the witch's hat and the bow, well, I think the witch's hat was in one of the monthly boxes that I got a few years ago. And then the bow, I think that was just something that was on the website. So I doubt that they're still available, but you can check if you want. The bow, the number on this die is 828, and the witch's hat is 1015.1, and the cat is 823. If you want to make an inquiry on Potter USA on their website, if they still have these available. But like I said, I can still cut some for you if you need them, if you can't get them. Okay. All right. So I've got my wire ring that I had soldered a little earlier, and I just want to texture him a little bit. And for this, I am going to use, I think I will just use the back of a chasing hammer, the ball peen end of the chasing hammer. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this down here. Tighten that up. Okay, so I'm gonna just hold on to the ring and hit it with the chasing hammer with the ball peen end. I think it gives a nice sparkly edge. But you could use metal design stamps and stamp all the way around the edge if you wanted to do that. You don't get the entire design, but you get parts of it, and that can look really nice as well. You can take a straight line embossing stamp and go around that too and make little lines all the way around. Okay, so that gives a nice sparkly edge to it. All right, so I've got that done. And now comes the tricky part. This is assembly. And I am going to be using some titanium shims, little pieces of titanium. They're just little strips. I got some, I think they were 1 by 3 or 1 by 6, I think 1 by 6 inch strips of titanium from Rio Grande. And they are nice little shims to lift things up when you're doing things that aren't exactly even. And what I'm going to do first is solder the cat head and the hat and the bow together. I'm going to use some solder paste, and I think I'm going to have to stand up to do that since this is high up. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is work from behind. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going to solder the kitty's hat on. This just keeps the piece stable. I'm just using, can you see that okay? Or is it too high up? I think you can see it. Okay, I'm just putting one little piece of shim underneath his hat to raise him up. But first of all, I've got to put some solder paste on here. So what I'm going to do is put some medium solder paste, just a tiny bit of medium solder paste on flying hat. On the back of where he's going to attach. I know I have too much on my pick. I'm not going to leave that much on there. So basically over his ear is where the solder paste is going to go. And he's on the shim, and you can tip his hat a little bit. I think that looks cute. And then I'm going to do his bow as well. I'm going to do both pieces at once. And that's where that little tab comes in handy, is where I'm going to put his bow. All right, I've got a little too much solder coming out here. Just trying to prevent too much cleanup. But you can't always prevent that. Okay, so now I'm going to take those handy dandy little tools from Eli Gahimi, that makes these tools that hold things steady while you solder. It makes life a lot easier, the soldering bit. Just trying to clean up that extra solder that seeped out of there. Okay, can you guys see it? I'm messing around here to see if you can. Ah! I don't know. Can you see it? I hope so. All right. All right, just checking here. Okay, I think you can see it okay. All right, so I'm going to solder from the bottom, hit it up on the top, just to make sure that I heat it evenly all over. And here we go. Oh, come on. He's moving anyway. That little stinker. Get back here. my fume trap on, so that should be, you saw that smoke, that is typical of solder paste. It should be on there okay. I'm using a different mat here too, a different screen mesh. I thought I would try this one that comes with the tripod. I usually use the heavy duty one, but I thought I'd give this a shot to see if it laid a little bit better, a little steadier. Now these suckers are hot, so we take that off. And he's soldered. Pinch him. He's on. It worked. Thank you, thank you. All right. Now, because I am the impatient sort, I'm going to do what I normally do on these demos to shorten the wait time. Normally he would go right into, but what I'm going to do to save time is that tab that his bow is soldered onto, I'm going to clean that off with one of these grit coated silicone wheels. I think it's silicone. It's either silicone or rubber, something like that. But it's got, the white ones have the coarse grit in them, and they take down the fire scale real easy. I don't know if you'd call that fire scale, but you know, the crud that comes on after you heat metal up. Well, that's real professional. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just clean this off here. Got my mask on. See how I clean that off right there? That's the attachment area. Some of you might be shuddering right now that I did that, but this is how I roll. All right, so that's where I'm going to have the contact point, is where the hard solder line was here. I'm going to put easy solder paste on this part, and also I need to solder on the little pumpkin. So that could be, setting up could be a little bit of fun. All right, let me move this back a bit for a moment. This is still warm, to say the least. Any questions? Okay. I'll get this set up here with all my little guys, little strips. Ow, the solder, my torch is in the way there. Take this off. I'll tell you, masks are necessary, but they are a pain. Oh, okay, let's see. We're going to get some easy solder paste and put a little bit on the back of the pumpkin, just where it's going to have contact with the wire. Maybe one more shim. Oh, that was too much. Okay, now we'll get Monsieur Kitty and get a little solder paste there. Put that on the contact point. And get my shims. If you get these shims, cut them in a bunch of different size pieces so that you have them handy for different applications. All right. That might be a little bit too high. Because ideally, I'd like to have the little corner of his hat rest and get soldered as well. But I don't know. That might be asking for too much. Oh, where'd my solder paste go? It disappeared. I'm going to put a little on the tip up here. I don't know if I'll be able to get them pressed down without futzing everything up, but we shall see. All right. Still might be too high. All right, guys. Moment of truth time. Oh, I didn't put my guys down. That makes a big difference. Because once you apply the heat, they want to scoot away. Come on, I have one more. Where is it? Oh, it's still here. I think. It's kind of like setting a mouse trap, you know? You just kind of want to make sure. Okay, stay. Now, hopefully, nothing will come apart, and these guys will solder. And it's really hard to tell when you're working upside down. It's kind of hard to tell when the solder flows, unless you've got a terribly ungodly amount of solder. I hope I don't burn off my bangs. I'm pretty close. Well, I'm going to call that good because I really can't tell. So we're going to find out. Well, pumpkin didn't stick. One casualty. I'm surprised that did not stick. It didn't solder. It looks like the other parts did. All right, well, in this case, I am going to have to, I think I'm going to have to pickle him. Maybe not, though. Maybe I'll just clean that up. Let's see if he's on here well. Yeah, the other parts are soldered well. But I will, I'll clean that off. That's not a big deal at all. Whoop, mask. All right, Mr. Pumpkin, where are you? Hey, Jennifer. Okay, so cleaned up. I just cleaned off those two areas where the fire scale was. And I'm going to put a little bit more solder paste on the pumpkin. All right, now these guys are still hot, but let's see if I can stick one on here. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I think I want to nudge him down just a bit. All right, let's try this again. And you know what? The shims may attribute to why that didn't stick. I've got them built up pretty high on this guy. So I have a feeling that they hindered the heat from getting hot enough there. He's on. Okay, cool. All right, stuck him in the pickle. All right, let's see. Hi, Sandy. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so I guess while that's in the pickle, I'll just go ahead and solder the hat on the pumpkin. That's a real easy peasy do. And the stuff is all hot, so I have to be careful not to burn myself. So I've got Mr. Pumpkin there, and I'm going to put a little solder paste, and I'm just going to use easy solder paste on that. And you know, I use these little dishes for lots of different things, but the solder paste is nice to use. I designate one to the solder paste, and it doesn't seem to dry out. It seems like it's always usable. So that's kind of nice. So I'm going to put his hat on. I'm going to put it a little cockeyed. Okay, that guy's not too hot anymore. And stick him on here. All right. You know, actually, maybe putting two of them on here might be not a bad idea, to make sure it doesn't scoot off. Okay, so I didn't really need the shims for this. Put this out of the way. But yeah, I do think the shims had everything to do with that little pumpkin not heating up properly. All right. Now, I really want to, I'm wiping off a little bit of that extra solder that kind of wedged out of there when I put the heat on, just to have less cleanup. And there we go. Okay. And I will have all the references on the handout of where to purchase these things if you want to do this stuff. Oh, okay. So there's the Pumpkin Meister. Okay, so he came out okay. He's got to go in the pickle. He's pretty crusty. And see, I got a little, I don't know if you can tell, you can see right there, a little bit of solder. I don't know how that came out. Must have had it on my pick or something. But I got that on there, but I'll be able to clean that off pretty well. Okay, so any questions up to this point? All right. Oh, I forgot my solder, my copper tongs, so hang on just a sec. Gotta have the copper tongs for the pickle. Get these things out of the way. So has anybody made any of the little tack pins? that I demoed. If you make that stuff, if you make any of the things that I do in the demos, please share them with us, with the group. I know a few people have shared some things, and I really enjoy seeing that. I think we're going to be doing the little copper dishes next week, the hammered copper dishes. That's pretty much ready to go for a demo, so I think we'll be doing that next week. And I also have come up with another project. We've got the copper dishes, the little copper dish. Wrong. I guess. Crap. What in the world is the issue? It just didn't make contact. I'm going to try it one more time. If not, if that doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen this next time, we're just going to move on. Oh, I've got to clean that off. It froze. Oh. Everything looks fine, but every once in a while I get a little fuzzy look on the screen, so I'm not really sure why that does that, but generally if you just bear with, it'll come back. The gauge, Sunny, the copper gauge of the wire is 10 gauge, but you could use 12 also. 12 would work. And thicker than 10 is kind of thick, kind of hard to deal with. I mean, you definitely would have to anneal that wire. All right. Well, you know, when I think about it, these not butterflies, the hummingbirds that I'm holding the pieces down, they act as a big heat sink also. So, so that could have something to do with that not soldering properly. But as far as this not working, I don't know. Let's try again. Maybe I should just try without a shim. I'm just afraid he's going to go flying. I don't have the steadiest hands when it comes to holding on to pieces, but I think I'm going to try it and see. I've got nothing to lose, really, I guess. So far, he's staying steady. He's moving a little. Woohoo! Well, he's on this time. Good. I hate to be defeated. I will not be defeated. I just hate to take too much of you guys' time when things don't work out. But, okay, so that's good. Now he's going to take a while in the pickle, so I don't know if you want to see me clean that up or not. I'm happy to do it, but the pickle's not instant, so if you have questions that I can answer for you in the meantime, I'd be happy to. Let's see. Yeah, right, Sonny. I am not the boss of the metal, but I want to be. Gwen is the boss of the metal. She is the boss of the metal. So, all right. Let's see. Do I have any? Yeah, you know, I don't know why the computer freezes up or the broadcast freezes up occasionally. But I've been told, you know, that the best thing to do if you're frozen is to jump out of it and then come back in. And generally it works okay then. So, Jennifer, you ordered the pins? Okay. Yeah, I want to see what you guys make, you know? All right. What are the, oh yeah, okay. So titanium, thanks for answering that, Patty. Okay. Anyway, what I'll show you is something else that I, in the last couple of days that I played with. So I'm trying to line things up from week to week, so I have an idea of what I'm doing, because I'm not a good spur of the moment person when it comes to figuring out demos in front of people and stuff. It's just not, it doesn't work for me very well. Boy, am I a mess. Okay. So, a friend of mine had made me a business card holder a while back, well, a few years ago, actually. And I use it at all my shows. I always have it on the table. I love it. And I thought, you know, she had seen it in a magazine somewhere way back when. I don't know when, but quite a while ago. I'd like to give credit to whoever first made it, but I don't know. But I'm not selling them, so maybe that's acceptable. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to share it with you. It's really pretty simple to do. I used some 24 gauge copper sheet, and I did not patina this yet, but I will. But this is how it looks right now. It is just some copper folded over. I ran it through the rolling mill first, and then I put a couple of rivets on here. I put my business name on here and set my cards in there. It's really pretty of an easy project, but I thought it was kind of fun and cute, and I thought we could do this in a couple of weeks, and well, 3 weeks probably, because we'll do copper dishes next week, the fold forming the week after that, and then we can work on this the following week. So I'm trying to find these ideas to present to you guys. So, you know, I'm drawing from stuff that I have around here, stuff that I've taught before, or stuff that I've recently made up, kind of. I'm thinking about doing the Day of the Dead skulls. The oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, I'm thinking about doing that, but you know, I'm going to be running out of weeks. So if I decide to do the Day of the Dead skulls, I'll probably have to, you know, put one of these aside till afterwards, because there's no timeline rush, you know, with something like this. So I'll have to think about that. But the sugar skulls, I couldn't think of that word for some reason, but that would be with enameling. So, you know, I could definitely share that with you guys too. So if you want to chime in on stuff I'm doing, or you'd like to see me do it. I mean, I've said it before, but I always could use help for ideas, because there's 52 weeks in a year. So there's 52 Wednesdays. If I do this every Wednesday, that's a lot of projects to think up. And so, keep that in mind. Keep it on the back burner for me. All right, let's check and see if that pickle has done anything. I've just got it in a cup warmer. It's not the ideal way to do it, but put my torch again. That's still hot, that sucker. Okay. All right, he's not great, but he's fairly. I can see if I can power blast through him with the micromotor and clean him up. So let's see here. What size blanks will you use for the dishes next week? I am using 3-inch discs and also some 2-inch discs, and I will show you how I make them, how you can make them. I've got the Potter pancake dies for the 2 and 3-inch, but I also have templates and the sheet copper to show you how to make your own. So we'll go through all of that. Is that pretty much what you needed to know, Gina? I mean, if you want to do this stuff ahead of time or do it with me, I have no problem with that. It's just that you need to know what to use. So if you think that you want to do that stuff, message me or put a note in the group, and I'll list the things that you need to have so that you can follow along. I mean, it's all nice to share and learn about this stuff. So we will, just put that out there if it's something that you're interested in. What gauge? I used, on the dishes, I used 22 gauge for the hammered ones. You could use 20, but if you're gonna cut them with metal shears, it's a little hard, although you can anneal the metal first, which will help. But I find that the 22 gauge is just fine. It's substantial enough. And especially, I'm not going to enamel these that we're going to do next week, but if you were going to enamel them, I would definitely not do them in 20 gauge, because then they get too heavy. To me, 20 or even, 22 or 24 is even fine if you're going to put enamel on them. Okay, so I'm going to clean the kitty up a little bit with some steel wool. And I generally use my face mask with this too, because those fibers aren't good to breathe, and they make me cough. I got a lot of excess solder on this pumpkin. This really needs to be in the pickle longer. There's no doubt about it. It really does. But what I'll do, basically, just to let you know what's involved, if you don't know, is getting all this fire scale off. And I'm just doing this the quick way. This really should be in the pickle for a lot longer. I think my pickle needs to be changed. But I'm knocking off some of this with this wheel just to get it off faster. But like I said, if you put it in the pickle, you wouldn't have to do this. And you don't want to press too hard, because you'll make ridges in your copper, and you don't want that. I love these wheels. I use them so much. I buy them in bulk because I blow through them pretty quickly. But I'm just doing this quickly to show you because we could be here a lot longer if I really was meticulous and cleaned it up properly. And I'm not crazy about this pumpkin because I didn't stamp his one eye very well when I did the stamping on there. See all that, I don't know if you can see, but all that dust from the wheel, all those little crumbs from the grit get all over the place. You do not want to be breathing that. So I would take more time and refine him as far as the cleaning goes. I might, after we're done with this, I probably will take this pumpkin off and put a better stamped one on here because one eye just doesn't show very well, and I don't like that. I want that to look right. So from here, I would put him in the, I would clean him up more, of course, like I said, and then I would put him in liver of sulfur and get the patina on him, and then I would clean that off with steel wool. So that is making Mr. Kitty. Sunny says, please post a list of the dishes. Okay, I will do that. Yeah, Jennifer, I generally just add more pickle to the pickle pot, but this pickle is getting kind of green, so it needs to be changed. There's no doubt about it. And it just needs to be stronger. But that's Mr. Kitty. And then I would just put some jump rings on the top of him and put a chain through them. There's the finished project. And it's really, I mean, you saw the steps. It's not a difficult thing. Just a few things to keep in mind when you're soldering those pieces together. But like I said before, if you want some of the blanks, I'm not pushing them. I'm just saying, you know, if you want to do these projects that I am showing you and you don't have a source for these materials, I'd be happy to provide them for you. So you could always just message me and I'll give you the details on that. They're relatively inexpensive and they're a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed this demo. And if you have any other questions, I'll be on here for just another minute. Oh, I didn't show you the pumpkin. We'll get him out of the drink too. Yeah, this pickle is just, I mean, he's been in here long enough that he should have been cleaned up. Cleaned up a lot better than this. So the steel wool just doesn't cut it too well, getting that fire scale off. You just have to have it in the pickle longer. But he's cute. He's cute with the little witch's hat on there too. You could just punch a little hole in the top, give him just a slight dome on there. He'd be a cute little pendant, or you could solder a little tack pin on the back of him too and make him a pin with the hat. Here's one without a hat, but then there's one with a hat. So they're doable. They're doable. I was thinking about doing this guy too a little bit bigger, this sugar skull. I was thinking maybe some turquoise eyes might look good in there, or some garnets or something. I don't know, something different. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this demo, and I will be preparing for the next one. And I will put the materials list in the group and also the instructions, the handout for this demo will be in the group shortly. So thanks for joining me, guys, for sticking with it, and we'll see you next Wednesday for sure, or in the group in the meantime. Toodaloo.